I'm Bernie Sanders. I'm running for president.
Joe Biden is set to join the 2020 Democratic race.
I am in this fight all the way.
I'll speak on his behalf here. He's going to run for president. How about that?
They call me Mayor Pete, and I am running for president.
I announce my candidacy.
I'm Deval Patrick.
Tom Steyer.
Former New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg.
I follow politics for a living, and even I'm overwhelmed. Aren't you? Let's get some help.
Drew, you're gonna need these.
Thanks, David Ignatius. Karen Tumulty.
Hey, just a sec, let me finish this tweet.
I have some French fries here. You have years of political expertise. What do you say we trade?
Deal.
All right, is that enough for you? This year feels historic. I'm not making that up, right? Can you just walk me through the ways that this cycle is so crazy and tell me that I'm not crazy for thinking so?
There are three big things that are really different about this year. One is there is no obvious frontrunner. Joe Biden's leading in the polls, but he looks like a pretty weak frontrunner.
And you want to check my shape on, let's do push-ups together here, man. Let's run, let's do whatever you want to do. Let's take an IQ test.
The second is the size of the field. The sheer number of people who have jumped into this race is astonishing. At one point, there were over 24 Democratic candidates. And then finally, the challenge of this calendar is much harder, I think, than we have ever seen, because some really big states like California and Texas have moved up their contest, which means that you have to have the resources up front to be able to compete.
We have people from all across the board. How are you thinking in broad categories of the candidates?
We've got ethnic and gender diversity like we have never seen before. More women candidates, African Americans, Asian, Latino. We also have more diversity, I think, in life experience than we've ever seen. Current and former senators, one of whom was vice president, 2 billionaires, current or former mayors. We've never had a mayor as president of the United States. And until Donald Trump, we had never had a president of the United States who had not spent 1 minute in public service, whether working a government job or serving in the military. You have this great diversity of candidates. And who are the three leading contenders? 3 white septuagenarians and then 1/4 person who's a Pete Buttigieg.
How can I speak intelligently about the reasons people are getting out? Kamala said it was because of money, right?
I'm not a billionaire. I can't fund my own campaign.
There were a bunch of other factors, I think. One is that had she stayed in, she would have had to file to be a presidential candidate in California. Super Tuesday, March 3rd. She is the home state senator, and she was running something like 3rd or 4th in the polls. For her to have gotten humiliated in her own home state could have had long-term implications for what is still a pretty bright career.
I am still very much in this fight.
I think it was a very smart move on her part.
See, now that I can say at a dinner party.
I think the big X factor in all of this is, does Joe Biden stumble? And if he stumbles, when does he stumble and where does he stumble?
Has he not been stumbling?
He still kind of has the national poll numbers. If you get to the point where the assumption is that he's not the electable guy that you thought he was, that suddenly opens a lot of space. One of the people I've been keeping an eye on is Amy Klobuchar.
You go back to a James Madison, who I love because he was 5'4", which is my height, and he was a president.
It doesn't show up in the polls, but if you go to Iowa, you just run into a lot of support for her.
I have the most endorsements of electeds and former electeds of any candidate, any of them, in Iowa.
But again, as long as Joe Biden is in the race, she doesn't really get the kind of running room. This time around, it's a lot more complicated, I think, than it has ever been. So we go to Iowa, February 3rd. Right after that's New Hampshire, Nevada caucuses, South Carolina.
Boom, boom, boom.
Right. A month after the Iowa caucuses, Super Tuesday.
boom, 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 boom.
15 states, a third of the population of the country will be voting on one day.
It's crazy. What is going to determine whether they can beat Donald Trump?
You know, I go back and forth on that. There are some days I wake up and think, which of them couldn't beat him? I mean, he's got the lowest approval rating of any president since polling began. So he does seem like a really uniquely vulnerable president. But he also, the way he fights is unlike anything we have ever seen.
The Democrats' outrageous conduct has created an angry majority that will vote many do-nothing Democrats out of office in 2020.
In 2016, he was essentially living off the land. As late as the spring of 2016, he had a campaign staff that consisted of about 6 people. He was spending very little of his own money. He had almost no ground operation, even going into the fall of 2016. He basically had to borrow what the RNC had built. That isn't going to be the case this time.
Money.
They are raising money like crazy. They have a very sophisticated digital operation, and they are pouring enormous resources into organization. So this Donald Trump is not going to be your 2016 Donald Trump.
Last question, I promise, but this...
I got to take this. Sorry. Leave the fries.